Kingdom is a manga that draws upon the lore and the mythology of the Warring States period in China that was characterized by bloodshed, military reform, and redrawing of borders. Standing at 695 chapters and counting, Kingdom provides a tour de force of military strategy, epic battles, and tear-jerking moments. Our main character is Ri Xin, a fiery boy with an overabundance of competitive fervor that instills fear in his adversaries and certitude in his comrades. His goal in life is to achieve a singular dream, one that consumes him and motivates him to soar ever higher in the ranks of the Chinese army. Of course, his story is just one piece of an intricate puzzle that is Kingdom. And in this video series, we'll explore the entire story together and experience the thrilling ups and downs of Yasuhisa Hara's classic. It was the Great Age of War lasting 500 years, the Spring and Autumn Warring States period. It is the year 245 BCE, in a kingdom in western China, Qin. Two war orphans, Xin and Piao, practice their swordsmanship. One day, a man in a carriage takes notice of their battle. They are both adamant they'll reclaim everything they've lost and become the most powerful great generals under the heavens. Lord Changwen then buys Piao's freedom, and he will thusly work at the royal palace. Despite his apprehension, Piao decides to go. A month goes by, and the second in line for the throne is attempting to usurp power. Piao, henceforth, may be in trouble. That night, Piao comes back to Xin, missing his right arm. He hands Xin a map of Hebei village, telling him to go right away. "Take me with you across the world," says Piao as he passes away. Xin punches the wall in rage, claiming he'll avenge his friend. Despite the tumult, Xin decides he needs to head to Hebei village, a village notorious for outlaws. Xin confronts 3 outlaws, yet takes them down with ease. One of the outlaws tells a messenger owl to pass the message that the boy is coming. An assassin arrives in Xin's village, questioning the village chief's son about what happened. Xin then arrives in the outlaws' encampment, ravaging his way through with ease. We then see a memory of when Xin first met Piao. Piao taught him the way of the sword and encouraged Xin that they become generals one day. In the now, Xin defeats the various bandits, eventually reaching a shack with Piao inside. "Piao? No, I'm Zhang." The assassin then enters the village. He's after the king of Qin, Ying Zhang. He is the one who killed Piao, fooled by their similar appearance. Zhang used Piao as a body double so he could escape alive. Xin battles with the assassin, but gets knocked down. Enraged by Piao's death, Xin attacks again with greater ferocity, cutting through the assassin's sword and into his body. The man pleads for his life, yet Zhang slices off his head. The younger brother, Cheng Jiao, wonders if his brother is dead. Just then, a large force of soldiers head their way, meaning all of the army has joined Zhang's brother. Despite the odds, Xin plans on fighting his way out. Just then, a boy in a bird costume, Diao, offers his assistance in helping them escape, since he knows the king is loaded with cash. They make their way through an underground cave. Diao wonders why Zhang didn't quash the rebellion beforehand, but he claims he lacked the power to do so. Due to his grandfather and father dying at an early age, Zhang assumed the throne at the age of 13. However, Lu Shi, the right chancellor, assumed greater power for himself. The left chancellor, Ji Shi, opposed him, creating a rift in the royal palace. The younger brother aligned with Ji Shi. Cheng Jiao speaks with Ji Shi, claiming that Zhang's mother was a dancer girl, making his seat on the throne disgraceful. With Lu Shi leading a campaign in Wei, Cheng Jiao wants to assume control of the kingdom, leaving Ji Shi in charge of ruling the state. Cheng Wen-jun, the one man deeply loyal to Zhang, devised a plan to use Piao as a double and have the king escape to Hebei village. Xin is enraged by this news, yet Zhang informs him that Piao knew the risk going into this venture. Zhang thusly gives him a choice: return to his village as a servant, or follow a powerless king in pursuit of his dream of becoming a general. Xin questions Zhang about how they'll get back to the palace. Zhang says their only chance is meeting up with Cheng Wen. The soldiers search for Cheng in the caves. The Cheng party takes a break, but then Xin passes out from the exhaustion. Chen carries Xin throughout the forest. Ji Shi is furious that the king is still alive, yet General Wang Yi bears good news. claiming that he killed Chang Wen-jun. Though General Wang Yi is a dangerous man, Jishi enlisted him in return for providing Chang Wen-jun's land to him. Muda, an assassin after Chang, kills a tiger with a blow dart as he continues his chase to kill the king. Shin wakes up, finding out what the king did for him. They then arrive at a summer retreat house from the king of Qin from 400 years ago. The place is empty, so Diao cooks a feast. Zhang claims that Duke Mu from 400 years ago was a loving and wise king. He formed an alliance with the mountain people during his reign. After his death, the alliance was cut off from the Qin side. The mountain dwellers, however, preserved this summer getaway in the king's honor. Muda then sneaks up on Diao, looking for the kill. Shin intervenes to save Diao. The army then follows a trail left by Muda that leads to the summer house. Muda and Shin prepare for battle. Muda talks about the power of the blowgun. Muda launches his attack with battle axe in hand. Muda continues his barrage with Zhang and Diao watching on. With Zhang's help, Shin gains the confidence to wound Muda. General Wang Yi brings the head of Chang Wen to the advisor, Shishi. Shishi then wonders what Yang Yi desires. A world of seething blood and dancing flesh. The soldiers chasing the king are attacked. Shin repels Muda's killer intent. He then lands a critical blow on his adversary. Chang Wen arrives, killing Muda with extreme rage. Shin expresses rage for his dead friend, yet Chang Wen ignores this and expresses relief in knowing that Zhang is alive. Zhang wonders why their plan failed. General Wang Yi interfered. He didn't seem interested in taking sides, but rather finding a fight to get his blood boiling. Both sides prepared an ambush. Chang Wen was hit by Wang Yi's attack, causing him to fall off of his horse and sending him far away from the battle. Heki recounts the rest of the story to Shin. With Chang Wen gone, Piao rallied the troops, boasting their confidence. Despite Piao's bravery, he didn't make it out alive, as we already know. Shin then talks to Zhang on a first-name basis, causing his retainers to excoriate him. Shin then asks Zhang how he can become a general. Because he's a servant, he cannot set foot on the battlefield. But if Zhang gets back to the palace, Shin can attain land, wealth, and work his way up to becoming a general. Muda is still alive, barely hanging on. He gives Diao some darts, telling him to run away since the king has no allies. Heki explains to Shin that Lu has an army of 200,000 soldiers, attacking northwest of Wei. Diao then conveys a message from Muda that Lu won't come back until Zhang is dead. Lu Shi knows of Jishi's rebellion and is waiting for an opportunity for him to attack Chang Jiao and take the throne for himself. He would do this by calling out their injustice by eliminating a sitting king and taking the throne for himself. In anticipation of civil war between Lu Shi and Jishi, Zhang wants to return to the throne and establish normalcy. Zhang instructs him that the mountain people could be useful in reclaiming the throne. They then make their way to the Mountain King, as many soldiers experience extreme fatigue. Heki tells Shin a story of when Duke Mu aided the people of Jin with their famine. The next year, when Shin suffered a famine of their own, Jin invaded them. When the Jin army surrounded the king, 300 mountain dwellers were unleashed, as they fought in a savage fashion. There's no guarantee, however, that the mountain people will provide support, as they watch the Zhang party from a distance. Everyone is struggling due to the steep incline. Just then, they're surrounded by the mountain people. Only Zhang will be allowed to speak with the Mountain King. All the others must descend down the mountain, otherwise they'll be killed. Shin furiously attacks one of the mountain men. Zhang halts the attack, saying he will comply with their demands. After they leave, Chang Wen attacks Shin. Chang Wen determines that Shin is more capable of protecting the king than himself, and urges him to go after Zhang. Chang Wen then apologizes for what happened to Piao. Heki is instructed by Lord Chang Wen to follow Shin and Diao. They set up camp, thinking of a way to get in the village, as the mountain dwellers surround them. Wang Yi declines an offer from Jishi to defend the Hangyu Pass. He then wonders how Zhang will surpass Zhao, a man named the God of War. The Shin party is captured and taken to the kingdom of the mountain people, and they're henceforth locked up. Heki says that 526 years ago, the Zhao dynasty was defeated by the Marquess of Shen's rebellion, the main force consisting of Guanrong, the mountain warriors. The mountain people then attack the Shin party, but they are saved by one of the mountain dwellers from earlier. Tajip protects them in lieu of the king's orders, yet they will be judged tomorrow along with Zhang. Zhang is then brought before the Mountain King. The Mountain King knows Zhang is powerless and wants to judge him. 400 years ago, when Duke Mu died, the mountain people were cast out and brutalized by the people of Qin. Zhang apologizes, but states that cutting off his head will solve no problems. The king needs to demonstrate the pain they felt by cutting off the heads of his 3 comrades. Zhang is able to halt the beheading by talking about an abolishment of all country borders to bring peace to the region. The Mountain King seems skeptical, but Zhang proclaims that he will be the first king to unite all of China with the help of the mountain people. In a flashback, Lord Duanhe declined a request to invade Xin in preference of expanding the world. Xin insults the mountain people and escapes from his restraints to knock one of them down. Xin then argues on behalf of the king in his own way, albeit very crudely. The Mountain King is then revealed to be a girl, and she announces her new alliance with Zhang. The armies then depart. Meanwhile, Xin struggles to ride his horse. Subjects loyal to Zhang are executed by Cheng Jiao. A flashback shows that Cheng Jiao didn't know he had a brother. When they first met, they glanced at each other with a menacing glare. The princess had her throne stolen by the dancer girl, who is Zhang's mother. Seething with rage, Cheng Jiao kills 2 women. Xin finally controls his horse. He remarks that the first person to ride horses into battle was Zhao's King Wuli. In the past, Piao informed Xin that only nobles and the warrior class could ride horses. Cheng Jiao now wants to execute Cheng Wen's family, but since Wang Li owns the territory, he refuses to hand anyone over. Shishi and Jishi have been promised reign over the state, provided they bring Zhang's head to his brother. Despite having Zhang on the run, they raise their concerns about Lu Shi, who is also known as Lu Buwei. The Zhang party reunites with Cheng Wen, who managed to gather more soldiers. The strategy meeting commences. Cheng Wen informs the others that there's 80,000 soldiers in Xianyang. But they're not after the king. Rather, they are focused on Lu Shi. With 3,000 soldiers at his disposal, Zhang instructs his men to make masks. They then embark for Xianyang. They arrive at the royal capital in Xin. Jishi scolds Shishi for only amassing 80,000 soldiers. But without the royal seal, that's all they could muster. Jishi orders another 100,000 soldiers for the extermination. Zhang reveals that they will wear the mask and become temporary allies with Jishi's army. The state of Qin opens up the gate and welcomes the mountain people. The group notices police officers inside, silencing the people. Shishi has his reservations about the new alliance, sensing something's amiss. It's time to end this, Xin. Only the king and 50 people will be permitted to enter the palace. An advisor questions Jishi about the alliance, but Jishi is adamant they need the mountain people in order to conquer Lu Shi. Xin scolds Diao for tagging along, but she wants to rack up achievements and get rich. Once they reach the Crimson Gate, they'll be instructed to remove their weapons, but that is where the battle will begin. They are then told to surrender their weapons, yet Zhang begins the battle by drawing first blood. They kill the soldiers and look to climb the tall castle walls. Xin is the only one who makes it to the top, surprising Jishi. Guards are sent after Xin, but he cuts them down. He then opens the gate for his comrades. They then target Jishi's carriage, but Shishi arrives with a large number of reinforcements. Shishi demands that King Ying Zhang show himself. Zhang then uses himself as bait. Meanwhile, Wang Yi takes pleasure in the proceedings. Tajif breaks a wall. Xin and a small force enter in as Zhang and the main force face Shishi. Wang Ji's unit is known for their crossbows, as Yang Duanhe seems unconcerned. The archers prepare their volley as the mountain people rush in. Xin's unit is then confronted by Zuosi, who is Shishi's right hand and Jishi's manslayer chief. Zuosi has assassinated many of Lu Shi's men over the years. Both Xin and Zhang's men engage in battle. The battle intensifies when one of the mountain men is cut in half. Zuosi cuts another one in half. Next, Lord Duanhe senses that the real battle has just begun. Xin manages to cut Zuosi, surprising everyone. Heki begins to believe that Xin can become a great general as he comes to the boy's aid. Unfortunately, Heki is cut down. Wei Jing then confronts the king for a 1v1 battle. Xin snaps, attacking with extreme fury. Zuosi demonstrates his superiority over Xin. Diao tells Heki that everything will be okay, since they have Xin. Xin then unlocks more rage, knocking Zuosi onto his back. "I'll teach you who's the strongest under the heavens." Cheng Wen interferes before Wei Jing ended Zhang's life. Tang is second in command for Wang Yi's army. Wang Yi then tells him to check in on the Yulong corridor, where Xin is currently fighting. Xin and Zuosi go in for their final thrust, with Xin coming out victorious. Jishi returns to Cheng Jiao, telling him about Zhang and the mountain people. Despite this, Cheng Jiao remains confident that the throne will remain his. Xin's unit only lost 2 men as they make their way to the king. Zhang encourages the men to fight on. If you endure, it will be our victory. Shin helps out an injured mountain warrior from falling behind. Despite this, he dies in his arms. Shin and the mountain warriors enter the throne room, shocking all of the royal advisors. Chang Jiao condemns them to death, yet Shin calls him a false king. Lan Kai, a monstrous being, then rips up one of the warriors. Shin is knocked unconscious, as the others try to hold him off. Bajio decides to take on the monster by himself. The rest of Zhang's troops, waiting outside, get worried. But the mountain elders say that the Mountain King, a woman who unified the mountain tribes in only a few years, will make sure that everything is fine. Only one man was able to break her mask, and it was none other than Bajio. As a kid, Bajio feasted on the innards of other warriors. Though he's tamed now, there's still a beast that lurks deep within him. After wounding Lan Kai, the monstrous beast begins to retreat. Zhang then speaks to Shin when he's unconscious, stimulating him awake. Lan Kai looks tired, but Chang Jiao threatens him into action. Lan Kai is a rare species of ape, and Chang Jiao trained him since he was a child. Chang Jiao states that humans are naturally evil, and that the royal family stands above them all. Shin states that nobody would put their life on the line for Chang Jiao, and that they are all disgusting. Chang Wen fights Wang Ji. Lan Kai's rampage continues, with Shin entering the fray. He breaks some ribs in the process though. Although his sword won't cut through, Heki explains that everything depends on the person who is wielding the sword. Shin needs someone to hold Lan Kai down for his plan to work. Tajif clenches onto Lan Kai's leg, allowing Shin to jump into the air and pierce into the back of Lan Kai. Exhausted from the battle, Lan Kai bows down in defeat, as Shin announces that this is the end. Chancellor Ji Shi and the nobles see their dreams of ruling the kingdom evaporating. They try to escape, but Tang halts their progress. Under the orders of Wang Yi, Diao shoots a blow dart at Ji Shi as the mountain warriors cut him down. His head lies on the floor as Diao is stabbed by one of the nobles. Chang Jiao escapes as Bajio takes Ji Shi's head. Chang Jiao runs into the main battleground, surprising Shishi. Lord Duanhe makes her move as Wang Yi enters the battleground. Wei Jing questions Wang Yi about the fake head of Chang Wen. Without a word, Wei Yi slices Wei Jing in half. Heki then discovers that Diao is wearing chainmail, protecting her from death. Wang Yi approaches Zhang, asking what kind of king he'll be. The one and only king of China. The only king to speak these words before Zhang was the god of war, Zhao. As it so happens, Zhao was Wang Yi's beloved master. However, Zhang will not serve as his metaphorical perch, as it were. Therefore, if he wishes to fight with Zhang, he must accept Zhao's death. Then, and only then, he will be able to fly across China as a demon bird once more. In the past, Zhao told Wang Yi if he had 20 more years, he could have taken all of China. Though Zhang's eyes are different from his grandfather's, Wang Yi loves his conviction in achieving his path to China. Zhang is the 31st king of Qin, and with this, Wang Yi withdraws from the battlefield. Shin returns to Zhang as Chang Jiao is surrounded on all sides. The soldiers are horrified to see Ji Shi's severed head. Zhang then blocks Chang Jiao's attack, telling him he's not fit to be king. In rage, Chang Jiao attacks, but Zhang cuts into his arm. Zhang then teaches Chang Jiao about the people's pain via beating him down with his fist. Zhang instructs everyone under Chang Jiao to surrender, as Shin claims it to be their victory. Heki attempts to tell Shin that Diao is a girl, as Zhang walks in. Soldiers under Zhang wonder why they're sparing everyone's life, but Chang Wen states that their true enemy is Lu Shi, so they need all the men that they can muster. The Mountain King decides to adopt Diao as one of their own. Shin declines an offer to become a guard in the royal palace, opting for a life as a warrior so he can rack up achievements and become a general. When Zhang reaches 20, he'll seize power from Lu Shi. Until then, Shin has to rise up to his level. Lu Shi hears of the news as the mountain warriors depart. Shin is excited to live in his new house, as Diao decides to live with him instead of the mountain people. There are 7 states with 7 kings in China, all fighting for supremacy. 3 months later, Shin is doing odd jobs for money. Diao is finding life a bit dry at the moment, compared to their time with Zhang. Shin's body is finally fully healed, as Diao states that the neighboring state of Wei has begun their invasion. A border dispute has caused both sides to raise up armies of over 150,000 soldiers. Some men from Shin's village talk about Piao's funeral. Chang Wen states that Wei's chariots are the top in China. The soldiers then perform an exercise of forming Wu units, a 5-man team as it were. Shin has trouble forming a group of 5, so he ends up with some other leftovers that no one wanted. They all introduce themselves, with the little one identifying as Qian Lei. Their unit is then absorbed into Shin's 4th army. Shin finds out there's 6 armies in total. The 4th army is going to Wan Castle, who houses a lord that loves the harshest of battlefields, the Star-Eyed Black Dragon. Just then, we see the Star-Eyed Black Dragon's head in someone else's hand. A red messenger reveals the travesty that occurred at Wan Castle. The perpetrator is Wu Qing, who served as a retainer for one of the 4 Juns, and a Jun is someone who possesses the power rivaling that of a king. Their new location is Yashui. Shin threatens a man who attempts to steal his sword. A 1,000-man commander unit comes through, with Shin stepping out in front of it. "Yo, B, it's been a while." Heki tells Shin that Zhang is acting as though the rebellion never happened, since he needs as many soldiers as possible for the battle with Lu Shi. Heki warns Shin about the Rongguiyang defenses, making their mission more difficult than before. General Wu Qing will prevent the Shin warriors from invading Wei. Wu Qing begins his attack, with the 4th army heading towards Shagan Plain. After hearing the orders, Heki wonders what kind of general Biao Gong is. 5 days after travel, they reach Shagan Plains, with Shin seeing his first ever war battle. In a flashback, we see Diao doing whatever it takes to survive, as her grandfather passes away when she was only 5 years old. Shortly afterwards, she saw Shin fighting for the first time, but she wasn't scared by his power. At Shagan Plains, Heki informs them that Wei launched an offensive attack to catch them off guard. Capturing the hill is paramount to their success. Heki concludes his inspirational speech as everyone is ready for battle. After the experience he's been through, Heki aims to become a great general one day. Shin's unit ends up with Baku Koshin as a commander, who loves suicidal charges. Wei General Kyo Gen wonders if the Shin army is fools for not waiting for reinforcements. Though Taku's squads are always the weakest, no one has ever died under his watch. The troops are commanded to charge with everyone rushing in. Wei assumes the rock formation. Shin rushes out ahead and jumps over the various spears and runs into the middle of the action. Chang Wen then updates Zhang about the machinations on the battlefield. The battle is a bloodbath, with men falling left and right. Shin continues his onslaught, but notices that he's losing his breath, and that his body feels heavy. Shin then targets the captain of a chariot, slicing him down. Kyu Gen of Wei then launches a chariot unit that comes stampeding through. Foot soldiers continue to get trampled. General Du Qiu orders the cavalry units to hold their current positions, as everyone's surprised by this. Qiu Kai then announces they'll make a rampart, i.e. defensive wall, out of corpses. They then hide behind the rampart, which protects them from the chariot attacks. The chariots circle back around as Shin begins his counterstrike. After destroying the chariot and the men inside, Shin takes the horse for himself. Commander Heki wonders why the order hasn't come down to deploy the cavalry unit. Yet Baku Koshin scolds him. Shin struggles with the chariots, but then Kyo Kai gives him some useful advice. With this knowledge, Shin is able to lodge his spear into a chariot wheel and kill the men inside. Shin begins rallying the Qin soldiers, as they remark that he sounds like Heki. Despite their success, the main chariot units of Wei plow through the 2nd and 1st Army infantry. Shin's efforts are a mere pebble in the grand scheme of things, as Kyu Gen of Wei instructs his soldiers to bring him Du Qiu's head. Du Qiu then orders the 4th Army Cavalry to go in. Baku Koshin commends his infantry units for surviving, but he's now ordering them to break through the enemy's sentry infantry formation to slay Kyu Gen. Du Qiu orders the 1st and 2nd Cavalry to charge in. Heki then provides assistance to Baku Koshin's unit. Bi Hei then gets surrounded by the Wei soldiers, but Kyu Kai slices them all in half. Shin then remarks that Kyu is keeping a lot of secret abilities hidden from the rest of the group. Baku Koshin is leading his soldiers to certain doom. With only 46 units left, Baku Koshin says there's only high-ranking officials on top of the hill, and that if they succeed, their reward will be 10 times higher than normal. Baku then instructs Shin to leave his squad and join the vanguard. A dust storm moves in as they begin their advance. Baku Koshin's forces then break into the Wei midpoint guard. Hearing of the attack, Kyugen then calls upon Ko-Rijin to deal with them. Shin is not happy when he finds out that Baku Koshin wants to use the infantry as a distraction. Archers send a volley of arrows as Ko-Rijin hits Baku Koshin. Ko-Rijin sends another arrow at Koshin, yet Shin manages to block it with his sword. Shin blocks another arrow, so this time, Ko-Rijin aims for the head of his horse. Despite this, the horse pushes forward as Shin cuts through Ko-Rijin. Baku Koshin then reaches Kyu Gen, insulting his intelligence. Shin thanks the horse for all its efforts. Kyou calls all of their efforts a matter of luck, as he pierces through Koshin's chest. Wei General Kyou, I shall have your head! Chokei is instructed to cut down the Wei flags. Kyokai kills many men, but he loses his breath in the process. Baku Koshin's unit captures the hill, but they need to leave before the reinforcements arrive. Shin refuses, saying he's going to stay and fight. However, Baku Koshin orders the troops to descend down the hill. However, Gokei repositioned his armies, to the surprise of Shin and the others. The 1st, 2nd, and 4th armies of Shin are then instructed to ascend up the hill. Heki then notices that General Oki has appeared for unknown reasons. Shin then takes notice of the great general of Wei, Gokei. Kyugen then states that they'll all be slaughtered. Oki wants to head to the top of the hill where Shin is. And with that, the monstrous bird of Chin is on the move. Heki remarks that they look like an army of demon gods. Shin is directed to take Kyugen's head back to the headquarters. What's this? You're leaving already? Even though things were finally getting interesting? Shin's 4th army captures the hill, surpassing the Wei forces. Shin is paralyzed with fear, looking up at Oki. Despite Chang Wen's words of praise, Oki is rather disappointed looking at Shin, claiming he's weak. Shin provokes him into battle, yet Oki demonstrates his clear superiority. Heki begs for Oki to take command of their forces and lead the charge against Wei. Oki refuses. Gokei deploys the 9-fold spear wall. Oki states that Gokei is a great threat. He then claims that there's 2 types of generals, those who fight with strategy and those who fight with instinct. Oki asks Shin if he wants to make a bet on who will win the upcoming battle. Kyou then leads a force of 5,000 soldiers that are heading straight for the Wei army. Oki states that the opposing generals face war in drastically different ways. Kyou charges through the Wei soldiers, surprising Shin and Gokei. Oki states that Kyou would give him a run for his money. Heki calls upon his units to assist Kyou in the charge. Oki states that Kyou ordered all the sacrifices up until now. Everything that has happened until now is the result of 2 men. That is what is known as a general. Shin then borrows one of Oki's horses and descends down the hill. Kyou then continues blowing by all his adversaries. Kyou is a terrifying monster that draws upon the strength of his trailing soldiers. Gokei, however, plans on grinding them down by targeting the troops at the rear. Heki's cavalry unit enters in as Shin slices off the head of an enemy commander. Shin then joins Heki's group. Kyou's forces have been cut in half. Gokei then instructs Shuki and Maki to bring Kyou's head to him. Heki informs Shin they are helping Kyou by providing a psychological effect. Essentially, by using an indirect pincer attack, they are pressuring the Wei army. Kyou's units then reach the final defensive line. Shin then charges towards Maki and Shuki. He then battles Maki, taking considerable damage. He then jumps off his horse and slashes down on Maki's head. Kyou kills Shuki in an instant. Gokei has no other options, taking up the challenge of fighting Kyou 1v1. Finally, we meet face to face. Everyone backs off, allowing the generals their duel. The final clash of the war begins. The troops cheer on their generals as if it were a sporting event. We then see a short flashback of General Gokei's past as a child. It is then suggested that Kyou is holding back, attempting to understand his opponent. However, both inflict severe damage. The two continue battling each other ferociously. Gokei says his entire kingdom was murdered. Gokei was the prince of a small state called Jia, but it was wiped out by Zhao. He henceforth changed his face and name, and has never let go of his grudge. Kyou belittles his troubles, claiming he'll send him to the afterlife. Kyou then serves the finishing blow, paying his respects to his worthy adversary. Kyou's army thusly claims victory. General Haku Kisai of Wei looks to intervene, yet Oki blocks his path. The Wei army retreats, with Oki meeting up with Kyou. Kyou says they're going home and tells Oki to have a drink with him. As recorded in Shiji, a historical Chinese text, Kyou's army took the heads of 30,000 soldiers. Shin then meets up with Diao, as Zhang stares down at Shin. Ko is blindfolded and brought to the king's chamber to attend to his needs. Yo is 13 and Ko is 12. Ko has been summoned to the king's chamber 3 times. Despite this, she has yet to touch Zhang. The king's harem currently numbers over 1,000. Despite the thousands of women, only a dozen or so give birth to the king's child, with the lucky one becoming the queen of Qin. Ko goes a 4th time. Nothing happens sexually, yet Ko begins to fall for the king. Women gossip, saying Zhang was dumped by a girl named Hika. so he's bringing Ko over to get over it. Ko mentions this to Zhang, yet he knows nothing of this Hika girl. However, there was another girl in his life that had a similar name. Zhang then recounts a story of when he lived in Zhao. In 262 BC, the state of Qin and Zhao fought over the region of Johto. The 2-year stalemate ended when Oki killed Chokatsu. Zhao's 400 soldiers thusly surrendered, so the commander-in-chief for Qin, Hakuki, had them buried alive. Zhang was born in the royal capital of Zhao, Canton. Shika mentions that Qin's god of war kicked the bucket. She then announces a plan to escort Zhang back to Qin. Just then, Zhang gets caught stealing food. Though he fights back, he gets beaten up by the mob of people. As it so happens, Qin stops sending him and his mother an allowance, hence the reason for his stealing. The merchants then agree to take Zhang back to Qin. They tell him that his father is being appointed to crown prince. Zhang has a headache and passes out. The merchants place him on a carriage and take him away in the dead of night. The group needs to make it past 5 checkpoints to make it out of the Zhao territory. While Zhang sleeps, Shika notices the scars on his body. At the second checkpoint, a guard shoots an arrow at their luggage where Zhang is hiding. Later on, they check in on him, finding the arrow stuck in his hand. After 4 days of travel, Shika's crew reaches the final checkpoint. After passing through, the guards shut down the gate. The crew begins to panic, realizing they need to make tracks. Zhang has a nightmare while awake, terrifying him greatly. He jumps out of the carts and runs away. Shika catches up to him. Out of nowhere, Zhang stabs himself in the arm, claiming he can't feel pain, physical and emotional. Because of the Zhao massacre, he experienced much hatred in his life, and he thusly closed his heart and stopped feeling. Shika reminds him that he does have emotions, and implores him to return to Qin. Nevertheless, Zhang can't escape his incessant nightmares. Shika snaps Zhang out of it and returns to the cart. A Zhao cavalry unit is in pursuit as they prepare their weapons. The cavalry from the cliffs descend upon them. Amon then sacrifices himself so Shika and the others can escape. At the rendezvous point at Red Pine Lake, Changwen waits for Zhang's arrival. Zhang's shadow implores him to give up his ambitions of becoming the king, and instead go to sleep with him and the Thonic spirits. Save your breath. I will return to Qin to become a king. The others are all morally defeated, as Zhang urges them not to give up. Everyone has fallen. Shika hands the reins to Zhang as she grabs a crossbow. Shika hits some soldiers with the arrows, but is eventually pierced through her own hand. She continues fighting with a sword. Just then, an arrow plunges into her chest. The Qin cavalry make their advance, as Shika uses her body to shield Zhang from the barrage of arrows. After they reach safety, Shika states, "You will certainly be able to become a greater king than anyone else." Zhang screams her name as the heroic woman passes away. At the age of 9, Zhang sets foot in his homeland for the first time. And with that, guys, that ends the Escape from Zhao arc and part 1 of this video series. So if you're wondering, we were able to get through 81 chapters of the epic. So that means at this current pace, we probably got another 7 or 8 videos to go before we catch up to the ongoing story. My hope is to release these videos on a weekly basis, so if you guys can support these videos, like, comment, and subscribe, I really appreciate that. But until next time, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the flip side.